We are excited to have you here tonight. You may be wondering why there are lots of cameras around. That is because we are live streaming the event. It's a production. I'll say my time at SCETV has been a little bit brief. And so I'm excited to be a part of this, jumping into all of the wonderful things that ETV does. I know Raven and Desiree have been helping to coordinate this with all of our partners that we worked with to put together tonight's event, and they have done an amazing job, as well as all the partners that have helped to put this together. So at first, just like to give them a hand for putting all this together tonight. So we received this grant, SCETV received a grant to support a multi-platform production, as you can see around us and on the live stream, and a community engagement initiative to inform, illuminate, and activate suicide prevention strategies in our communities. So tonight's event is one of the first of 2 town halls that will be in our communities to talk about suicide prevention and bring awareness to this important topic. And this is for a documentary that'll premiere in September called Facing Suicide on PBS, and to bring awareness to the, suicide prevention. So why is public media involved in this? That's a big question. SCETV is the state's public media, public television, and radio station. This grant is meant to harness the power of public media and that voice that we have in communities and in the lives of so many individuals. And we can destigmatize this topic of suicide and equip friends and family to take appropriate action when someone close to them may be at risk. So SCETV Safe Space is the name of this initiative that we have formed to bring awareness to this topic. The regional town halls, as well as our other resources and the live broadcasts that will happen in September, are all under this umbrella of Safe Space. And you'll hear a little bit more about that in a second. But I wanted to once again reiterate the importance of what we're talking about tonight and the fact that this is a safe space. That although there are lots of cameras around us, this is an open environment for us to have a discussion and really talk about our experiences. You'll hear some stories from folks that I hope will prompt a great discussion this evening. So with that, thank you for coming.
Hello, everybody. Again, I just want to reiterate thank you again for coming and being a part of our town hall here in Hardeeville. My name is Desiree Cheeks, and I'm the Brand Development Manager for South Carolina ETV.
And I'm Raven Favor, the social media person for ETV.
So just a small reiteration of SCTV Safe Space. We did receive a grant from Twin Peaks Television to kind of address the state of youth mental health and suicide prevention and awareness in South Carolina. It is a very important aspect at every stage of life. So, as well as talking about youth mental health in the state, we're also going to be addressing mental health overall, because, we were all children once. We all remember what that felt like, maybe to not be heard, or maybe to feel like you wish you had somewhere to go or someone to talk to. And especially with the recent years with quarantine, with COVID, there has been an extra stressor on our youth in the community, just with the matter of how things have changed in their lives. It's going to affect our emotional well-being, our social well-being, even our psychological and our physical well-being. And so we want to make sure that we are talking to the communities and that we are finding out what resources are actually needed, what information is actually needed from the youth, from people that have connections to the youth, from people that are working in the communities, to find out what you guys actually need, what you're lacking, what conversations you're having, what conversations you want to have, you wish were available, where you want them, we really want this to be a chance to hear from the community and hear from you all, and to make sure that when you guys are sitting with your youth, or when the youth are amongst themselves, or just in wherever they are, that they are comfortable asking for help, that they are comfortable offering help to someone close to them that thinks that they think might need it, as well as you all being able to be open and listening to them, and also yourselves being able to reach out and offer and ask for help, because just personally speaking, I know that is difficult, and so we want to make sure that we present the information to make you all comfortable with that, but also hear from you all, so that when we come back out into these communities, we know exactly where we need to put our resources so that they're the most effective.
So I jumped up here with Desiree because we're co-leads in this, and I need her right now. So I'm just going to be honest and transparent. Being on this grant and being a co-lead with Desiree has truly been a pleasure. We've learned a lot about each other.
Absolutely.
Over the course of a few months. And SCETV Safe Space is very near and dear to our hearts. Like she said, we want to get down to the nitty-gritty of mental health in our communities. What do they need from us? What do the youth need from us? How can we help them moving forward in their mental health? I can honestly say, for me, my mental health journey started years ago. But as she said, COVID happened and everything went askew. So the SCETV Safe Space is a conversation that we're starting with the community. And we're hoping that this conversation continues in classrooms, in businesses, as well as the workplace. And we want to thank y'all for being here to join this conversation with us, to tell us what you need from us as a state agency, and to help with our facilitator and with our hosts and our storytellers, how we can have this conversation with everyone in the community. You know, mental health is stigmatized so much that as soon as someone says, I'm depressed, they just walk away. They're alone, then they're isolated, or they self-isolate. So we want to make sure that we are here together, as we are in this room, to have this conversation. Okay? So we have two storytellers. Oh, do you want to go ahead and introduce our host? Or?
Oh, yes. We would like to first introduce our hosts so that you guys know who we have sitting up here behind us to help facilitate this conversation. We have our very own from South Carolina ETV and Public Radio, Felicia Edie, and she is our host for this evening, and also a producer and reporter for South Carolina Public Radio. And we also have Ms. Sanithia Brown, who is the executive director of NAMI Mid-Carolina, and she is going to be our mental health professional and advocate to actually kind of help us with these correct terms, answer some of the questions that we ourselves in public television, but her as a mental health professional, we might not have the answers, but she might be able to answer some of those questions that you guys might be asking of us in the midst of this conversation. So please feel free to use us as a resource this evening, because we will definitely be using you guys as a resource to make sure we are creating workshops and conversations that are productive and are going to help you and help the community.
Okay. So first up, we have Ms. Layla.
Thank you. Okay. My name is Layla. I am 23 years old, and I guess my mental health journey started when I was about 12, 13. I had just moved to South Carolina from DC. It was a major change. I'm coming from a big city, having family and friends around me all the time, and I come to this small little town. I don't know anybody. I have a new family. My mom got married when we moved down here, and it's just, everything is just new. I started to feel depressed, I would say, or alone. Most of the times coming and going to school, I didn't have a lot of friends. So it was really just difficult. I started by taking pills because I just had the feeling of I didn't want to be here anymore. Sorry. Oh, Lord. I never talked about this out loud before, other than with family. So it was just the feeling of being alone. Me and my mom have a great relationship. I was always very open with her, and I didn't know how to be open with her because you always get that, talk to God about it, or, find out what you need, or, talk to a friend, whoever it was. And I just didn't have that. I didn't know how to I didn't know how to articulate myself. So I started by taking pills, and they didn't work. I'm still here, thankfully. And then eventually, I just told my mom. It was a very random conversation, and it was just like, I need somebody to talk to because I don't want to put my burdens onto my mom as a mother doing so many different things at one time. And I think that's when we had our heart-to-heart because she understood. She didn't shut it down. She didn't say, well, go pray about it, go talk to a counselor, at school or whatever it was. It took some time to find my first counselor. And I think when you're finding a counselor or a therapist, you have to make sure that person is almost relatable to you because you don't want to feel like you're talking to a brick wall. And sometimes it can get to a point where it's like you're talking and you're letting things out and you don't feel like you're getting anything back. I know for me, when I talk and I'm telling you that I need help, I need tools. I need you to break it down to me step by step, what I'm doing, or what I should do for the things that I'm dealing with. So after doing therapy for probably about a year, I kind of stopped because I felt myself like getting out of that little funk that I was in. And then I went on into high school. So I was in middle school when it started, 8th grade, I believe. I went on to high school, and I think around 11th grade, I started to feel it again. 11th grade is like, you almost at college, you gotta get the good grades, you gotta make sure your GPA is around a certain, point, you're taking tests and studying all the time. And I think with me, I was also in I was in a middle college. So I was taking high school classes and college classes at the same time. And that's a lot for somebody who's 16, 17 years old, trying to have friends, trying to go to parties and have fun and all these different types of things. You're trying to learn how to have a balance. So I think I was probably about 17 when I told my mom again, I was like, I need somebody to talk to again because it's getting too difficult for me to figure it out on my own. Right away, she was like, tell me what I need to do for you, who we need to find, whatever it was. I started going, and again, I found somebody, and then I realized they weren't for me. You have to be comfortable with the person that you're talking to. So after that, I think I was pretty good. I graduated, and then I went into modeling and acting. And on the outside, in the industry, it looks great. It looks awesome. You look like you're taking pictures and you're getting money and all these different types of things. And it was, but on the flip side of that, when you're doing auditions, you get nerves. You hear no's, you hear yeses, you hear callbacks, all those different types of things. And for me, because I wear a scarf and because of my faith, I would hear a lot of no's all the time. It was no, 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 no. Or the question of, can you take this off? Can you not do this? Or whatever it was. And I try not to let it affect me because this is who I am. I'm proud of who I am. And I went to New York, I did Dallas, I did many different things, and I ended up going to Paris in 2019. And I get over there, had to raise a lot of money, have people help me, all these different types of things. And I get over there and it's like, we can't work with you for political reasons. I didn't spend all this money, flew halfway across the world by myself. I mean, I was with a group of people, but I wasn't with my family or anybody that made me comfortable. And just to hear no, I think it was like the second day, it was just like, wow. Like, what was the point? And I think, again, that's when I started feeling like this is taking a toll on my mental health, because I'm constantly trying to lose weight. I'm trying to stay in a certain bracket for measurements and clothing sizes and all these different types of things, along with me having to wear a scarf. And it was just, it was too much. And I think when I came back from Paris, I went to New York again, and I ended up getting an agent. And that was, I felt good about it, because it's like, all right, I got an agent, I can get some work. And then it was radio silence. It was nothing, because they couldn't submit me for things, or the director or whoever it was, they didn't see me as fit. And I did, don't get me wrong, I did do a couple things. I did a MAC shoot multiple times. I was featured in Ulta multiple times. And those things are good, but when you hear no so many times, it's just like almost like, what is wrong with me? So I think it was about September, November of 2019, I was just like, I don't think I can do this anymore, because it's too much for somebody who's coming out of high school, trying to have a job, trying to be in school at the same time, having relationships. It was just a lot. So I started to focus on me, and people don't, what's the word? People think that being selfish is a bad thing. And it can be at certain points in time, but when it comes to mental health and how you're feeling, you have to be selfish, because nobody knows how you're feeling if you're not telling them, and nobody knows how to help you if you don't tell anybody. So if you're finding things that are comfortable for you or making you have, joyous moments and things like that, it's okay to be selfish. It's very hard for me to learn that coming out of a family. I have 6 siblings, and I'm the third out of 7. So sometimes I have to go into almost like big sister mommy mode, because mom can't do something or she's not around at the time. I'm trying to help little ones and older ones, and it's just so many different things at one time. So it's okay to be selfish. After going back to therapy again, I stuck with it. Even when I didn't feel I was depressed or upset or anything like that, I knew that just letting out what happened in my day-to-day, my week-to-week, it felt good just to let it out, to know that I'm not holding on to whatever good or bad happened to me. Then this year, this February, I'm jumping a couple years, but this February, I got married. And I moved, I got married, I'm in school, I'm working, and it's just like life just hit me at one time. I didn't know how to feel. My husband's working and I'm at home certain days, and it's just like, I'm sitting in the house, I got 3 cats, and they looking at me and I'm looking at them, and I'm just like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I'm here with you. That's really what it was. And then I was like, I told my husband, I told my mom, I was like, I need to talk to somebody, because I can't figure out this next chapter in my life. I'm not moving, or gracefully moving from one chapter to the next. So I started talking to somebody again. Unfortunately, they weren't the fit for me once I moved, and then I found somebody else, thankfully. And I think one thing that she has taught me is it's like telling yourself you can do it. Each day is going to be a battle. Each day something is going to pop up. You never know what your day-to-day is going to bring, but you know how you see on TV sometimes, it's like you put the sticky notes on the mirror, or you have your journal, or whatever it is. Those things, they actually do help. Even though you might not feel like it in that moment, when you start telling yourself multiple times, you got it, you're beautiful, you're smart, you have a good work ethic, they do help you. You might not believe it right away, because I didn't believe it. I didn't even know how to tell myself that I am hardworking, even though I get up and do my day-to-day and come home tired, whatever it was. It works. Find somebody who you're comfortable with talking to. Be selfish at certain times. It's okay to be selfish and selfless. But just make sure you're comfortable. And even if it's hard to find somebody to talk to, no one is really alone. we just don't know because nobody is very vocal about it. And I'm glad I had this opportunity here to talk about it because I've never done anything outside this. I've been in front of the lights and cameras and all of that, but I was never talking about my personal experiences. I was taking pictures for Ulta or, you know, showing somebody what I can do or who I can be, but it was never me talking about what happens in my day-to-day, what's happening in my life. So yeah. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
Hi, I'm going to take this now. Yeah, I'm Tiana. I'm an entrepreneur. This girl just spoke on everything that I was going to say, but I'm just going to piggyback off of her and just go with the flow. Mental health is real. Depression is real. Already. You just need people in your corner to just talk with you and listen. When you are listening, I'm a heavy believer in the ears are not the only source of listening. You have to listen with your heart, your eyes, your mind, and your ears. Never tell anyone that you're crazy for thinking this way, and never let anyone else think that you're crazy for thinking this way. I too come from a big family. I'm the third born out of 8 children, first born out of a set of triplets. The household was not easy. We grew up poor, but we were rich in spirit, we were rich in soul. We all had everything we needed. What we wanted was kind of hard to get, but we still made it work. My parents never, ever let us see them struggle, but we know they did. I'm just here to say, I'm grateful for being here. I am now a part of the mental health awareness advocacy program because I watched so many people decline and just really feel like they don't have the help, the strength, any of that. Same thing as Layla said, just feeling like you have no one to talk to. I too thought about it, acted on it. I'm glad I didn't succeed because I wouldn't be here to talk to you today. I can smile about it now, also with the tears in my eyes. I've been through a lot, but I'm grateful. You go through things so that you can grow through things. Just sitting here is a blessing in itself. I haven't talked to a therapist. I'm not sure I'm ready to talk to a therapist. I became a self-therapist. So I'm just talking to myself, teaching myself how to get through things. Me and Raven, we've known each other for a very long time. And she don't know half the stuff I've been through because she always see me smile. That's all she ever saw with me. But I cry a lot, a lot. Recently, the biggest challenge that I faced was I'm sorry.
No, don't apologize. But you know that's what we do.
My best friend of 20 years, he committed suicide this year. And I was there with him every step of the way. He was in New Jersey, I was here in Savannah, but we talked every day, FaceTime, text messages, photos, just everything. And I never saw it coming because he was happy. So just because you see someone smiling, it doesn't mean that they're okay. You just have to check on your strong friends. You have to check on your weak friends and just let them know that it's okay. I am grateful for Safe Space because I too created a safe space for a lot of people when I opened up my business. I am a piercing artist, and my space was created for children that are scared to sit in this chair and watch other people outside like, oh, she's getting her ears pierced. You can do it, you can do it. And then it's like, they'll get up in the chair and they'll take off running. And it was hard, you know, trying to keep them in that chair, letting them know like, hey, you came here for a reason, you can do it. But just listening to someone tell you you can do it is not enough. You have to show them that they can do it. I started at Claire's, as you know, and I was one of the best there. Just standing in front of the podium and just watching so many people line up to get their ears pierced and wait for me. And they didn't know me from a can of paint, just my energy that I possessed. And they were like, oh no, we don't want her, we want you. We don't want him, we want you. We'll just go to the food court. Can we write the number down and you call us when you're ready? You know, so that just kind of made a light bulb go off for me, especially being turned down by so many different jobs. You know, I know I'm qualified for the position, but oh no, we found someone else. Or no, you can't be the store manager, you can be the assistant, or you can be the key holder. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do any of those things. I want to run this place. You know, so that just put me in a place to where, Tiana, you're sitting here telling all these people that they can do it, but you're procrastinating on your own. You can do it too. So my light bulb went off and I did some research, and that's what allowed me to open up my own business and be very successful. Just the kids come in, I pierced babies from 3 months, and the oldest person I pierced was 87 years old. And she walked in and she said, I never in my life had my ears pierced. And I said, well, why did you come here? She said, because I read your reviews and I realized that you were in a space where no one else can see me, and I just wanted to be alone. And she enjoyed her time with me. I think we sat and talked for more than an hour, and the piercing only took 10 minutes. You know, so I am just grateful to be a person that people look up to, even with my own struggles, my own daily battles, because I battle daily. I am a social media influencer for many, many people. If I'm having a bad day, they won't know it. And recently with the stuff that I did endure with my best friend, with me, you know, shutting down and writing posts about being sad and grieving, and I got so many inboxes and text messages and phone calls, and they're like, girl, you stronger than you ever think you are, you know that, right? And I'm like, what do you mean? You just watched your friend kill himself, basically, and you are still an advocate for other people to know that there is hope out there. So anyone watching this and is just sitting home thinking about taking that pill, put it down. Thinking about taking that razor to your wrist, put it down. Thinking about putting that gun to your head, put it down. It's not worth it. Selfishness is possible, but when you are selfish to the point to where you feel like you want to take your own life away from you, you're not hurting yourself because you're gone. You're hurting everyone else around you. People love you. People love me, and I know that, and I'm confident, and I'm going to keep crying because that's how you work through your problems. I'm never, ever going to put myself in that situation to feel like I'm not worthy of being here, because I am. I am. Looking at you, all you strangers in this audience, and just watching you smile as I tell my story, that lets me know that I can go on. And I appreciate you all for being here and listening. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, once again, my name is Felicia Eady. I am a reporter, a producer, and a host at South Carolina Public Radio and South Carolina ETV. And thank you guys so much for being here to have this very important conversation. I am really glad to be here with you guys tonight. It's my first time in the area, but this is a very important topic. So I'm really glad that you guys are here. Before we get started, I want to remind a couple of reminders that we are live streaming. So 2 things. For those of you watching on our Facebook live stream at South Carolina ETV, we want you to be a part of tonight's conversation. And you can do that by, of course, watching, but then also you can put some questions and comments in the chat, and we have people here who will hopefully grab those and share those and make tonight's conversation more full. For those of you with us here in Hardeeville, South Carolina, what that means for you is if you can think of someone, or if you know someone who would benefit from tonight's conversation, go ahead and whip out that cell phone, shoot them a text, let them know, hey, Get on Facebook, South Carolina ETV. A really good conversation is taking place right now, and we definitely want you to be a part of that. Also, there is for those of you here and for our in-person audience, there was a survey on your chair waiting for you when you got here. Please complete that survey at the end of tonight's conversation. Someone will collect those from you. For those of you watching online, we have a QR code. If you scan that code, that will take you directly to the survey, because we definitely want you to complete the survey as well. And now we have a PSA for you to watch.
Being mentally healthy, your choices make a big difference in your life and for your future. Help prevent suicide and promote positive mental health by joining SCETV Safe Space. SCETV Safe Space is an initiative to help spread the word about actions we can all take to prevent suicide. You are not alone, and help is always available. This is a safe space.
All right. So tonight we're just going to have a conversation. A lot of talking from our expert here, but also we definitely want to hear from you. Again, here in Hardeeville with us, and those of you watching on our live stream as well. So to start the conversation, a good place to start is at the beginning. It's a good bit of us here. I want you guys to kind of just tell me, what is mental health to you? You can blurt it out, you can raise your hand. I don't know, anybody want to go first?
Mental health illnesses is not, you're not sure where you need to be as a person, and you feel a certain emptiness that you don't fit in with the general population. So, and as one of the young ladies said, basically you can't beat up yourself, but most people with mental health do, because they know that they are different. They just can't pinpoint where they're different at. And sadly, a lot of times that takes them to a place that they can't come back from. The other thing is the general public or family don't recognize it, and which shuts you down from them. Like the young lady said, she didn't want to talk to her mother, she didn't want to burden her or whatever. Mother may not recognize it as being mental health, may recognize it as, I got a teenage girl that's just those hormones and that growing up. This is all a part of it, because technically back in the day, and I'm old enough to say back in the day, we looked at it as that, they're growing up. As time moves on, that dynamic has changed, because I've been in law enforcement 40 years, and in the last 10 years maybe, I'm finding out, and it's not a racial thing, but I'm finding out that there's more blacks and young folks committing suicide than ever before. So that means somewhere down the line, they're not thinking or feeling like they can face it or they can fit in. And that's what young folks want to do, fit in. And when they can't find that space to fit in, then they feel different. And that's when the mind starts playing tricks on you.
What is mental health to you? What does it mean to you? Anyone want to share? What have you learned over the years? I think for me personally, much like what our participant here said, is understanding that it's a part of our system, this engine of ours that makes this body move. It is a part, just like the heart function, just like the lung function. It's a major function that works in concert with the rest. And just like we check on our heart and our blood pressure, we also need to check on our mental health. And again, like she said, as we, almost like a renaissance, as we learn through the years, you kind of realize that. So that's been a revelation for me. But you work in this space every day for decades now, years now. What are some of the misconceptions? What is it, and then what are some of the misconceptions that you hear a lot?
I think, you know, more than anything, people with mental health conditions, they feel, like you said, they feel alone. It's hard to talk about something you know, with as far as your mental health goes. We always say at NAMI, you know, mental health conditions, they're not casserole diseases. You know, if you find out someone's spouse has cancer, you know, you get together, you bring a dish over, you come over and find out, you know, what can we do for you? How can we help? Can we cut the grass? You know, there are all kind of things that your neighbors will come together for if they find out that someone's had, you know, has been diagnosed with cancer, has a heart condition, or has had surgery. Even if they've just had their wisdom teeth taken out, you know, you come over and you check on them. But if someone says, yes, my son was diagnosed with bipolar, you know, you don't hear that. Yeah. You don't get that support. You don't get the people coming over and saying, hey, listen, why don't I watch him for a little while, and you go out and get something to eat, you go out and take care of yourself, get your nails done. I know he's kind of manic right now, you don't want to leave him alone. You don't get that really with mental health conditions, and it really adds to the stigma because, you know, you're thinking, well, if I'm not getting that support, maybe I should be telling people that this is going on. And it's really sad that, you know, that we're in that place. You know, I've always said that, you know, we'll know we're past the stigma when people can call in depressed. You know, I mean, but you can't do that. You can't, nobody's going to accept that. Your employer is going to tell you, buck up, put your clothes on, and figure out what you need to do and get here because we're short-staffed. You know, I work for NAMI. I've worked for NAMI for 6 years, and I love it. It fell in my lap, but my previous job, I woke up miserable every day. And it really, people don't understand, but I will tell them, I really did have some form of PTSD from it. When you just wake up every single morning and you are unhappy and you know you have to go to an unhappy place, I practice my sick voice all the time. I can't come, you know. I don't, because again, I can't say that there's a boulder on my shoulders and I'm depressed and I can't come to work. You know, that's not allowed. So I think, you know, more than anything, we need more people talking about, you know, what they've gone through, telling people what they've experienced, and you know, sadly, explaining to people how close they came to not being here. You know, you look at someone smiling every day, you don't realize how close they are to not being here. And I was looking at that PSA, and I think I told Raven that the young lady in the PSA reminds me so much of Chesley Christ. Yeah. You know, and how devastating her, you know, suicide was. And again, you just don't know unless someone opens up to you and they're willing to talk to you.
I think that we're making some progress. Okay. A little bit. Yeah. We do have wellness days now. I think some offices have
mental health days.
Mental health days. Yes. I'm going to take a wellness day today. Even some wellness rooms, you know, in some offices. You know, if you need a minute, you need to take a beat. You know, you go into this space away from your colleagues. But also some pretty big stories that I think is a telltale sign that we slowly but surely we're getting there. So raise a show of hands. Who recognizes the name Naomi Osaka? And she made international headlines last year. I mean, she's a tennis player. Your goal is Wimbledon. That's what you're working for, right? And she makes the decision to sit out because she needs to take mental health. You know, she's working on herself. This year, the Doodle for Google contest for kids, the theme was all about self-care. So that was pretty cool. They select kid winners from every country, every state, and then, you know, they pick a winner from there. So we're hearing more and more about it, and I think that's a really good thing. When you see examples like that, how optimistic are you that we are making progress? And even talk a little bit about the speed at which we're making this progress.
I think we are making progress. Like you said, you know, more people are talking about mental health and their mental health conditions and their struggles. But just as we talked about Naomi Osaka, you know, we have to also talk about Simone Biles. You know, just the horrible comments that she got, you know, being a quitter, being a loser, you know, you're letting your country down. You know, there still are kind of two sides to the story. You know, people, me, myself, I look at her and I say, good job, you know, good for you. I can't do a cartwheel. So I know that there's no way that I could do what she's doing if my mind was not in the right space. But you have people that, again, that think that she's a quitter and she let us down, and she's not allowed, as a public figure, she's not allowed to not to be okay. And that's so wrong. You know, and I know that we're in a space now where we talk a lot about, or not talk, but we've had so many celebrity suicides, you know, and we publicize those, we share those, but we also have to understand that here in South Carolina, suicide is the second or third leading cause of death for kids 10 to 14. You know, what can a 10-year-old be going through that they have that just make that decision to not be here anymore? Yeah. You know, and I'm not saying I understand, I'm not saying I have the solution, but I know there's no amount of money you can pay me to go back to middle school. You know, I just couldn't do it. Things are just so different now. Yeah. And it's hard as a mom, you know, we were talking about your story. I have a 21-year-old and I have a 14-year-old. It is hard as a parent to know, is my child depressed or is my child just 14? Right. You know, you can't, how do you distinguish? And as a parent and as someone working with NAMI, I nag my boys now. You okay? You sure? You need to talk, everything. Because, and it's not that I'm just being overprotective, it's just I know the consequences of not talking to them. And I need them to understand that I don't care what it is you're going through, you need to talk to me or talk to someone, because again, the consequences of them not doing that is irreversible. Yes.
So I know I'm not a kid anymore, but
kid at heart.
I was gonna say you're young at heart.
You know, I remember being younger and kind of just sitting in the room a lot. My parents asking me, you know, were you depressed, or are you not? Were you depressed at the time? They're, you know, saying, are you depressed? But it was kind of jokingly because I was just sitting upstairs in my room. But very well, I may well have been, but I didn't think that sharing that, because looking at, you know, things that my parents were going through and just trying to make ends meet for us, and, you know, them struggling and coming home and having a hard day, I didn't want to feel like I was complaining and ungrateful, and, you know, that, you know, that they needed to entertain me, not that they needed to entertain me, but I just wanted to be a good kid, and I felt like my problems weren't enough to share with them. And so I feel like there may be, you know, that sentiment still lingering with kids today, and as well also probably with adults, and, you know, not wanting to feel like you're complaining to your friends. I've heard that from, you know, family members of mine that I check in. I'm like, no, it's not complaining. Please tell me how you feel, because that's the beginning to, you know, the snowball of you holding it all in. So I just want to make sure to address that, you know, maybe your kids or maybe somebody you know, or you're somebody, your kids might know, they might just want to feel like they're not complaining, but, you know, there's more there to get into. So.
Have any of you ever heard someone say, well, what do you have to be depressed about? You know, that is so dismissive, you know, because like Desiree said, you know, you tie depression to gratitude. And that's not the key. That should never happen. You know, I shouldn't feel guilty because I'm depressed, because I can't control the chemical imbalance in my mind and my brain. Yes, you know, and there are times when kids go to their parents and they're like, "What are you depressed about? You got an Xbox? You got a PS5? You know, we're getting your car when you." It has nothing to do with those material things. It has everything to do with, like you said, that chemical imbalance. When you have high cholesterol, you take medication for that. When you have diabetes, you take medication for that. When you have a chemical imbalance and you cannot get your thoughts together and you cannot pull yourself out of bed to do the normal things that you normally do, it's a chemical imbalance and you may need medication for that. We have to treat our mental health conditions the same way we treat any other physical condition, and people don't feel free to do that. And that's why, you know, we as NAMI, you know, we have support groups of people living with mental health conditions, and we also have support groups for family members of people living with mental health conditions, because family members sometimes recognize, you know, the differences before the person does, but also because they need to be able to understand, no, they can't just suck it up. You know, they can't just get over it. They're not just doing anything for a check. You know, it helps family members to be able to understand what their loved ones are going through and how to communicate with them better.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. And I
Yeah, come to the,
Go to the, we gotta hear, everybody wants to hear. Share with all of us.
And I'm dealing with something now, not just for myself, but my 13-year-old granddaughter. And I'm noticing by dealing with her, she's a manipulator. In school, she uses it, I'm just gonna kill myself. At home, I'm gonna kill myself. Well, I'm gonna get some ice cream. Can I go? Then you don't hear about suicide anymore. So I think she does it as manipulating me. But I also have in the back of my mind, not really sure. So I have experienced this firsthand. These schools, and in Jasper, because I can't speak of other places, we don't have adequate enough counseling. My granddaughter's 13 years old. To see a counselor in school is fine. That's from what, 7:30 to 3:45? That might be once a week. What happened to after hours or on weekends? Because once you start communicating, she's 13. So it's like a one-time thing until I go see Mrs. So-and-so next Tuesday. I think in order to relate to someone of that age, you have to be on them. Mentally, I mean, medically, I don't think, but I'm not a doctor, that there's anything as far as an imbalance so much, but it could be. But I also think that it should be dealt with the fact that I know she's a manipulator and she might be using this for someone other than me that's professionally able to tell what's going on. One lady did, or a doctor, but that was on the television at the hospital that I had to sit for 9 hours to get a connection with the doctor in Charleston to talk to her for 15 minutes, and now I got a bill for $200. I think that more of this today needs to be done. More in the school setting. You need to put it in their face because, like you just said, if adults don't recognize it, how do we expect our 13-year-olds or that group to recognize it? You know they're going through a phase. I'm a teenager, because that's what I'm being told. I'm a teenager, and being a teenager means that I'll have those problems, but we need more of it, not just a hit and miss thing. You know, because in between hit and miss, somebody's gonna take their life.
right.
And I just want to say, I mean, growing up, you know, you hear a lot, I've heard a lot, oh, she's just doing it for attention, or they're just trying to get attention. What I can say as a professional, give it to them. The consequence of not giving them that attention is, again, irreversible. And if someone is in a situation where they're going to threaten their lives in order to get whatever attention they feel like they need to seek, there is something underlying. There is, maybe they do need more interaction, they need more outlets, I don't know. But that is a very extreme, measure to go to for there not to be something there. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that every single person that threatens, will try. But what I will say is that if it's your loved one and it costs ice cream, or if it costs whatever, if they're threatening to hurt themselves for attention, give them the attention they need. That's the only way I can answer that. Okay.
All right, we have a question from Facebook now.
Okay. Well, I was trying to figure out how we were going to, okay.
So this is just a quick question from Facebook. Do you have any tips on how to support someone dealing with mental health issues that doesn't want to seek professional help?
That's a good question.
Get that question a lot. It's kind of tricky. If the person is under 18, then as a parent, as a minor, you can get help for that person. But we do have a lot of parents who are, their 25-year-old is living with them and they're not willing to go to the doctor or things like that. My suggestion or my advice would be to go to a family support group. Seek other family members. In our family support group, we have facilitators who have been through this with their loved ones. And I cannot, as a professional, say, you need to go see Dr. So-and-so. But the other people in that support group, we call it group wisdom. The other people in that support group can let you know what worked for them, what didn't work for them, how they were able to communicate with their loved one, how they were able to get them into therapy. There's some leverage that's probably needed, but talking to other people in the same situation that have been through what they've gone through is the best advice I can give.
All right. Mm-hmm. Any comment on that? I thought you were our Facebook question. I'm sorry.
Hi, I just wanted to share that, talking about chemical imbalances and things, I just know that life can be hard. Mm-hmm. Life can be really hard. Life can be really, really hard. Mm-hmm. And not everyone has, and at different times, love, mm-hmm. support, feelings of connection. Mm-hmm. And so I know for myself and for other people that whatever other kinds of things that, again, life can be really hard. So whether, the chemical imbalance or not, it doesn't matter because mm-hmm. life can just be hard. Mm-hmm. And we all have feelings. And something that I think is important to remember is that feelings are transitory. Mm-hmm. And sometimes when you're feeling so bad and whatever you're coping with in life or experiencing, it can feel so heavy and that you can't remember that you can feel good, that you have felt good, or that you can feel again, or those kind of things. I know for myself it's been very helpful to remember that that feelings come and go. And certainly if I'm in a place where I'm not feeling well, that I can remember that, that I can feel well again or better, that there are resources available. And in the conversation earlier about, we now have, some kind of wellness efforts, and we have, you can call in at some places for your job to have a mental health day. But a part that I feel is missing is to say, is the promotion of when we check in, how are you doing? How are you really doing? Mm-hmm. And if someone does share that they're not feeling so well or something, that, we are equipped with a few kind of things that we can share. I know affirmations work incredibly for me. Mm-hmm. I've relied on them, and they have been something that's helped me personally a lot. And then certainly counseling and talking and different things. So I feel like what employers can do and other places is put those tools out there regularly. It's mm-hmm. not a one and done kind of thing, mm-hmm. but, helping point people. You shared the story about your 13-year-old, your granddaughter, right? And so I know that from my own experiences and friends and things like that, I wonder if she's not testing the water or something, and there's such great vulnerability in just speaking to any aspect of I'm not okay. Mm-hmm. And I just know I would just hope that you let her know, hey, baby, if you're just saying that for attention or something, how about would you say, hey, I'd like some attention, please. Mm-hmm. But honey, if you're not feeling good and you're really having those thoughts, I want to talk with you because I love you and I don't want you to feel that way. Let's talk and let me help you feel better. Mm-hmm. That would just, I just know, take those, mm-hmm. Blips, because it could be like their tiny little way mm-hmm. of trying to tell you without really making themselves vulnerable mm-hmm. and sharing it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. And
mm-hmm. Okay. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Do you want me to? Oh.
No, go ahead.
And I was going to, employers are getting better. They are doing the mental health days. They're doing the wellness rooms and things like that. But what I found is that the best thing is to be able to talk to someone else. Yes, I can go to the room, I can color, I can take some time out, but it's so much better when you can actually talk to someone that can understand what you're going through or just wants to listen. Both of you have talked about how you guys had huge families. Mm-hmm. Has anyone been surrounded by people, by show of hands, been surrounded by people and still felt alone? It's not about going to the party. It's not about being out in the group. It's about being among people that you feel safe with, that you can share with, that you know when they ask you how you're doing, they care about the answer. You know, mental health conditions will make you cull the herd of friends or family members, because you'll find out very quickly, you know, who your true family members are, who your true friends are, and who the people you can depend on. But again, it is about talking to each other and being able to be open to each other. And like you said, you know, you were with your best friend or talked to him constantly, exactly. And so I have a best friend, and, you know, not going to use any names, but I have a best friend, and quite often the conversation that he starts with me is, I'm not sure if I'm going to take the pills or use the gun. And then I know I've got to put every single thing down, and we just have to talk through it. You can't, and I have to, and when he gets off the phone, he's fine. But I will tell you, I check on him before nighttime. I check on him the next day. It is not a situation where I'm just going to wait for him to call me, because I need to make sure every single day that you're okay. And there might come a day that he isn't, and I can't blame myself for that. Same way you can't blame yourself for that. We will hold guilt, and we'll try to figure out what we could have done differently. But I know that I'm there for him just as you were there for your friends. So it's about that conversation, that connection, and knowing kind of when people aren't doing well.
I'm really glad that thank you so much for sharing. I'm really glad you shared, because what she said something that pricked my ear, and that was that when people ask the question, are you okay? You know, sometimes we give the default, I'm fine, I'm good. I'm good. But and then this young lady, when she shared her story, you used the word graceful. You weren't gracefully transitioning from one part of life to the next. But it's not graceful, and just like you said, life is hard, and it's many days you're just not okay. Can you talk a little bit about almost like we need a re-education or reframing the conversation to be honest? I remember starting to feel bad a little bit. I have two boys, 9 and 4. And they do their job, and they do it very well. And whenever I found myself complaining a lot, I probably shouldn't use the word complaining, but when I talked with family members or when I talked with friends, well, you know, I let them know, oh, today was rough, you know, especially during the pandemic. So they are home, I am working, I'm mothering. It was a 24/7 job. Dad still went off to work, but it never stopped. There was weekends lost their value because it never stopped. And so I was just like, okay, I need to stop complaining, because every time I open my mouth. But I think maybe a little more of that is needed, so people won't feel so burdened down by trying to be graceful in every aspect of their life. Yes,
and you can complain, but you know, like you said, but be open to, I guess, solutions, and maybe even look at, I think we've got the sheets on our chairs about the realignment, you know, kind of looking at the positive things, and maybe sharing the positive things with each other, and doing those affirmations. But I will say right now, my job is a lot tougher, because we have Zoom meetings and we have in-person meetings. We just went back to in-person meetings, but it's tough because I can't tell you if what you're going through is something that's long-term or if it's pandemic related. You know, right now there's a shortage of therapists. You know, I have people that are on waiting lists that can't get into, see someone. Is that because there's a shortage, or is that because of the pandemic? You know, and so it's hard to kind of decipher, what's going to be your lifelong, reality. My son, my 14-year-old, is going to high school now, but he did virtual school the entire year, his 7th grade. I don't know how we made it. I have no earthly idea. It was the worst thing, and part of the problem, and it was the worst, my time in life, it was the worst part of our relationship. I became this taskmaster, yelling at him all the time. He was afraid of me, really, and I felt guilty as a mother, because I was so hard on him. But he wasn't used to being in a virtual school. He wasn't used to having to do school online, and the pandemic really kind of took a toll on us. So, you know, I'm sorry, what was your question?
It doesn't matter because that was great content.
Okay. Because I mean, when you talk about the pandemic, it's hard to decipher. You know, we as NAMI, we talk about people. You know, 1 in 5 Americans will experience a mental health condition, you know, in their lives. But basically, during the pandemic, the number became 1 in 3. So you know, it has affected everyone. You know, in a way, and we don't know if it's going away. We don't know when it's going away, and we don't know how long it's going to last. And like she said, it's not always a chemical imbalance. Sometimes it's just hard. 7th grade virtual school was hard. And it is also just as hard knowing that I'm getting ready to send my son back to school in person. And school is scary. I mean, for so many different reasons. The last 2 weeks of the school year, I pretty much did not exhale until 3:45, until I knew he was safe and in the carpool. So, you know, it is a whole different time. It is a scare. I live with anxiety and depression, and I am on high alert at all times right now because of everything that's going on. So it is a tough time, and it's not, again, it's not just because of always a chemical imbalance. So.
We have a question coming up, and just as you come up, I just wanted to share. You're
I'm not sure
absolutely
which
right.
one. Who's first? Okay.
My name is Argentino Calvo. I come from South America, and my story is like the young lady over there. We are all people. We came from, you know, we learn, most of the time we learn how to cope with this type of feelings by ourselves. But I notice now in the Latino community, there is no, I almost see no help for them. There is no resources where they can go to. Unfortunately, most of the Latino community do not speak English. So the ones who we do, we have to try to help. Sometimes I get so many phone calls where I'm sorry, baby, but my wife gets upset sometimes. Says, why you're doing this? But thanks to her, I am able to do it. I heard you guys talking about depression, feeling alone. I encountered people who they don't know how to get a driver license. This is people who has to go to work, and because our economy now, they have to drive from almost an hour, hour and a half. I used to be a firefighter and a paramedic, and I encountered many situations like suicide by cop, by suicide with drugs, by stuff where sometimes because I was the only one who was bilingual, I had to step in and try to mitigate the problem. Fortunately, I know this, if you just listen, it works.
Yes.
But now I know this, we have more of, the problem is, I'll give you an example. A family, a Latino family with 3 kids. None of them have a driver license. They do work. They find a way to make it to work. So they give me a call. They said, Argentino, I need a driver license. Google it, find out how to get a driver license. So I explain them how to do it. Sometimes I take my own time, tell them come home, or let's get together, let's study to take the test for the driver license. Fortunately, in the DMV, they give it them in Spanish. But sometimes they find themselves not able to take the test because they do not speak English. It's not because the DMV doesn't want to give them the license. Most of the time, we blame these people, but they are not like that. It's because they cannot communicate to each other. And that is the biggest problem I found in our community. Plus, having a mental health, a mental problem is like a taboo among us. Everybody can talk about, I have heart problems, I can say I have diabetes, there is the medication, go to this doctor. To tell somebody I have a mental problem is hard.
Yeah.
And most of us don't understand, oh, you're crazy. That's the first thing it comes to our mind. Even it comes to mind many times. Through the years, I learned how to answer to that. So, can you imagine somebody having mental health, doesn't speak English, and he cannot get, like I say, a driver license, a doctor's appointment, doesn't have insurance. And the jobs, what they have is jobs where if the guy who owns the job doesn't like them, they fire them immediately. There is no protection for these people. My wife and I, thanks to her, she helps me a lot. That's my biggest support, by the way. We gather clothes, sometimes money, sometimes we have to drive them to where they want to go. But I know this now is getting worse. It's not getting better. You know, let's say last year I used to get like 5 phone calls a day. Now I get like 10, 20 phone calls a day. So that tells me it's not getting better for these people. And in South Carolina, they depend of the work what the Hispanic people do. Because I notice they do really hard work. With these temperatures now, the pandemic, they have to go over there and work. And they do it because they want to support their family. But what happens when they get sick? They cannot afford medications. That is, I cannot imagine how depressed these people are. And I know this also, when the mom or the dad is depressed, they take it to the family. They argue, they fight, they yell at each other. There is a spousal abuse. They start drinking. Kids start committing suicide. They don't know what to do. My mom and dad fight every day because there is no money. You know, the kid wants to go to school, they want to look cool. You know, when we go to school, you want to look with the clothes. Right? Unfortunately, my wife and I, we were able to provide for our kids. But even like that, we had a lot of problems with our kids also. So I cannot imagine how these kids function themselves. You know what I mean? It
is tough.
My frustration is why we cannot find help for them.
Now, I will say that one of the things kind of on my wish list, you know, as the executive director of the NAMI Mid-Carolina, is for us to have a Spanish-speaking support group. And we're prepared to train people. We're prepared to offer that training for free. We just need people that are willing to take the training. And, you know, when you talk about the Latino community, you know, it's really not that much different than what I went through, you know, in the Black community. We did not talk about mental health conditions at all when I was growing up. When I said I was anxious, my grandmother gave me a scripture. They told me to, you know, give it to God, let it go, give it to the Lord. We prayed on it. And that's kind of what we did. We didn't talk about it much. And so I am trying my best to get into the churches, you know, to do more presentations because I feel like that's the way to open the door. I don't know, I'm struggling with opening the door for the Latino community. You know, I did have someone that came on as a volunteer, and she explained to me that even if we did do support groups, you know, we would have to, you know, advertise and go into the communities, but also we would need to probably do a separate support group for males and females because the women would not feel comfortable necessarily talking in front of the men, and men would not necessarily feel comfortable talking in front of the women. And so I will say that, you know, when we talk about mental health, there are some cultural issues, you know, that we also need to take into account. I've had calls from people asking about specific support groups for LGBTQ community. Right now we're a small nonprofit. We're willing to train anyone to be a facilitator. We're willing to go into any community. We just need the people to step up and say, hey, I'm willing to be a facilitator. I'm willing to offer, a support group for people in my community. I know you're in Hardeeville, but if you don't mind commuting back and forth to Columbia, we'd love to have some people to come and train to do those groups.
He brought up a lot of factors that could contribute to mental illness, things that we would gloss over or not really pay too much attention to. So thank you again for sharing. We really appreciate that. Yes.
Make sure we got our other person.
And we have another question. Come on up, please.
So I wanted to touch base on like the kids in the schools these days. I know that when I was younger, I had gone through, plenty, starting with like my parents' divorce and everything along those lines, and it was hard. I always knew that I was different. I always felt that. Turns out that I was gay and I was also depressed. So I got double whammy. But either way, when I was in school, I had the ability to be able to go to my guidance counselors. I said, I need to take a minute. I need to go and talk to my guidance counselor. Like, I have something on my mind. I really need to talk to them. And my teacher would let me go. It was as easy as that. It didn't have to be an issue. It didn't have to be an appointment. It didn't have to be anything besides, there's something bothering me. I need to go and talk to someone. And nowadays, I don't see that. Unless it's not here, I don't know. I came up from up north also. But nowadays, I'm not seeing it. I work also for DSS. So whenever I'm talking with my kids, I'm like, well, why don't you go and talk to your guidance counselor? We're trying to get you into counseling and to see a therapist. But in the meantime, go to your counselor. They say, who is that? Yeah, no. And they don't the guidance counselors aren't taking the time to reach out to the kids and to check in with them. So even after this pandemic, knowing how hard it is for all these kids to go through being secluded, having to learn something on their own, not being able to see their teachers or see their friends, I'm honestly shocked that there isn't anyone in the school district that is setting up, going class to class, and having one kid come in for an hour, being like, let's talk about this. How is everything going? What's going on at home? At least just once a month, once every other month, just to be able to check in on those who are quiet, just to make sure that they're okay. Something.
I will say, again, there's such a shortage, of mental health providers, and that was prior to the pandemic. So that it's gotten worse, but that was prior to the pandemic. There's no incentive really for to keep mental health professionals here, or to even encourage people to go into the field. So it is tough, and it is tough for I know. In my son's high school, the guidance counselor basically was the person that helped them figure out which school they were going to apply to. It wasn't about behavioral health. And so, we have to figure out how to separate those two, those situations. Yeah, we want you to get scholarships, but we want you to be okay mentally as well. And so we need, instead of just guidance counselors, we do need more behavioral health, professionals. Now, not to make this a commercial, however, but I will say that I am somewhat struggling a little bit, but I think we're making ground. But NAMI, Mid Carolina, we are working hard because we would like to establish NAMI on campus, our program at the high school level. And the idea is that we would come in once a month and have another professional come in and help the kids learn coping skills. You know, this month it might be art therapy, next month it might be journaling, the next month it might be music, you know, whatever. Kids don't know what they enjoy. I have a lot of friends that love adult coloring books. I hate those things. like it's like so nerve-wracking to me because I have everything's got, you know,
so many lines, right?
Exactly. it causes me more anxiety, but I do love to journal and I love to walk. And so to kind of introduce those things to students, and a part of it, you know, is to have somebody come in and talk about coping skills, but also have that NAMI on campus group come together and organize at least one mental health awareness, you know, event for the school-wide. You know, we've got funding for it. We've got people ready to train counselors to come in and kind of be, you know, the liaisons. We just need a school to let us come in, you know. So, but I want to say that youth, we coddle them a lot, and we don't talk to them about certain things, but they're ready to have the conversation. They really are. Youth these days will let you know, like you said, you know, it took you a while for you to come out and realize that you were gay, but there are youth that are coming out in elementary school. You know, they're talking about being depressed in elementary school. They're talking about not feeling like they fit in elementary school. So, you know, I think sometimes if we listen to them, you know, they might give us part of the solution if we just listen and not dismiss them.
Yep. You have another question?
Questions and comments.
Okay.
Just feeling so touched by so much that everybody's sharing and the comfort. I really feel like this is a safe space today that y'all provided. So I appreciate the people that have felt comfortable, you know, coming up and sharing, because I think this is how we do better. When you talk about how are we getting better, this is how we do it. And so everybody that's here today, you're a voice to go home and talk about this. And then everybody's going to touch 10 more people, 20 more people in their lives. This is how we do it. Isn't that a song, I think? Yeah. My kids would laugh at that. But the thing with it is important. I know I recently participated in a Safe Talk training myself to become a trainer. Y'all are probably familiar with that program. But part of it is creating a community that is alert to mental health issues and to suicide and being able to talk about it. And so that communication is there, not being afraid to talk to your granddaughter about it, because it is that fear, I think somebody mentioned, if you don't talk about it. So not being afraid, you might be wrong, you know? And so not being afraid if a friend is sharing with you that they're having a tough time, and if they give you, you know, that they're saying that they feel overwhelmed, they don't know if they can handle it anymore, asking them, using the words, you know, are you wanting to kill yourself? Are you wanting to, you know, feeling like you're thinking about suicide? Not being afraid to talk about it. That's how we lose the stigma. We all need to be able to say that in this room. Use that word, suicide, and to ask somebody about that. You know, again, with your granddaughter, you know, that one just really touches me. And I loved when somebody shared as far as what is it she's trying to communicate. And so there's a reason she's saying that. There's a reason she's using that phrase. It is something she's trying to communicate. So hopefully getting to that. So my, you know, it's not really a question. I'm just inspired by everybody being here with the representation, the people that I see watching online. I don't understand all the technical stuff. But that inspires me because it shows me we are making progress. We are moving towards having this conversation, having this in communities, and having more suicide-safe communities and alert to mental health issues. The other thing I just want to point out is just taking the time tonight, the people that are here that have taken the time out of their lives. I think we do get rushed and feel overwhelmed. I've heard people talk about their work situations. And I feel we get caught up in that day to day, but don't forget to be compassionate with each other. And if somebody is, you know, kind of saying they've had a hard day, you know, listening, and as somebody shared, listening with your whole body, whatever that is, the heart, the body language, whatever it is that you can listen with. I think we need to be a compassionate society, and just being aware what somebody else might be having or is going on with them is a crisis to them. It may not be a crisis to us. I know I have some of my coworkers here today, and that's a saying that we say with each other, is that it may not be a crisis to us, but it's a crisis to them. And so you're going to talk to them like it's a crisis, and see how we can help them and lead them to a safe place, or get them to, that support system that y'all talked about having. The other thing I just want to mention, not to take up too much time, is that we do, there are shortages. I happen to work with the local mental health center, and there are shortages with mental health therapists, getting those clinicians coming on board, and the need is there. And so again, I think that's what we need to talk about and communicate about, and we do need those people to go to school to learn how to be therapists, to be that help. But also, even with those shortages, be there as friends and family and as part of the community, whatever your role is. Is it, I'm watching the kids here tonight, they have coaches. Everybody's a mentor. You never know when you're touching a child or, anybody, or a person that's going through issues. So just remembering we are a village to take care of each other. It takes a village. The other thing I do want to mention, and I'll share some resources I know your wife, so I'll share some resources for you later. But just knowing, we're trying in the mental health system. We do use language interpreters. I know that's not the same as always talking to somebody who knows your language, but we do try to meet the needs, just as you're saying with NAMI, trying to meet those needs and trying to look, to the school situations, how can we help and assist and be there for all the students that need our assistance. I think I've kind of rambled on, but a lot of things I wanted to touch on there. Thank you.
I know we've got another question.
I am so excited about this sharing this safe space, and I've been involved with NAMI for over 20 years, just volunteering. After retiring, I thought I was over and this is it, but I felt that everything that's going on with the nation, I couldn't quit. And so I decided to push some doors open, let's say kick some doors open, and work with the churches. And I feel that because in the Low Country, with African Americans, just like you talk about Latinos, there are some very large disparities into different things that we deal with as far as our culture. And when it comes to dealing with things in this area, now I live in this area, we take it to the church. You can say all you want to say about God, you can pray about God, go this and that, but if we don't teach this in the churches, that we perish because of lack of knowledge. And so we have been working with pastors to help them to minister to their congregation, just like they minister to them about high blood pressure, cholesterol, diabetes, AIDS. If you don't have the resources, we are here to help you with those resources. Let us help you support your congregation. Let us serve you while you serve your community. And so by doing that, we have formed partnerships. And just like she just said, it takes a village. It does. And last night I went to a meeting at a church, 27 churches consortium in the Sheldon Township, where they're sitting down and they are having mental health ministries in their churches. And they're going out to other states. And they're going out to other countries in the Caribbean and Canada. Just because we don't want to just say, this is your problem, this is my problem, this is our problem. Until we come together and sit together at the table, talk about how this affects our community, every facet of mental health affects our community. And so I just want to applaud NAMI and South Carolina ETV for putting this on, and we are making strides.
Yes, we are.
Thank you.
And, you know, as when she talks about resources, everything NAMI does is free. So you need resources if you want to join a group, if you want to come to a class, if you want us to come out and speak, whatever you need from us, you know, everything that we provide is free.
All right. Well, I think our time is running up just a little bit. So again, thank you guys so much for coming out. I want, again, for those watching on our live stream, don't forget, scan that QR code. We definitely want you to complete that survey, and those of us here in Hardeeville, please complete your survey as well. Someone will collect them at the end. We're going to bring back up our co-creators in just a minute, but before we go, because I'd like to leave people with actionable steps. We talked a lot about factors and symptoms and things we noticed, but what, one or two, very briefly, coping strategies for someone watching right now, or someone in this room that may know someone that's struggling right now, that will hold them over until they can get with a professional.
Just if you know of somebody that's their behavior's changed or you're worried about them, you know, again, we text. You text them. If they don't respond the way you want them to, you call them. If they don't want to talk, go over there. If this is your friend, if this is someone that you know you care about, just, you know, I know this is in this day and age is different. Just show up at their door. You know, we used to do it all the time.
Yeah, we did.
Just show up at their door and knock and go, maybe wine, I don't know. But, you know, take something over there and be ready to stay with them. Because again, everybody's not going to say, hey, I'm ready to harm myself, or I'm ready to complete suicide. Some people are just indifferent.
Yeah.
There's some people that just want to lay down and want the troubles to go away whether they wake up or not. And you need to know that about your friends, you need to know that about your loved ones, and you need to know that this 30 minutes might save the rest of their lives. So go over there and check on them.
Z, thank you. All right, Raymond Faber and Desiree Cheeks. Thank you guys so much. This has been a very insightful conversation. Thank you guys for sharing. We really appreciate it.
Okay. Yes. Thank you all so much for being so open, for listening and sharing your community struggles, your personal struggles with us. We just really cannot be thankful enough to. I've gathered so many notes about what this community is saying and what they need. I'm going to ramble. Raven, would you like to?
I just want to thank everyone for coming out to have this conversation. It is a much needed conversation, as you can tell with everyone that was asking questions and trying to get advice. As you know, outside we do have a couple of vendors if you would like to talk to them. But we also want to extend our thanks to the city of Hardeeville for allowing us to have this here. Some of y'all know I used to work for the city of Hardeeville, and I told them that I would be back. Did not know what fashion, and I'm back. Okay, so I would like to thank y'all for allowing us to host this in the Low Country, because it is much needed. I want to do a shout out real quick with council people that's here, that's present. Carolyn Castle is here, thank you so much. And our mayor, city of Hardeeville. And I keep, Harry Williams, I always say our and we when I'm in Hardeeville. So the love is still here, I promise you. And I also want to thank our speakers. Thank y'all so much. Like Tiana said, we've been knowing each other for many years, and I don't want to cry. But we always smiled and had a good time. So for her to open up, and I reached out to her after that happened, I just wanted her to have a platform to share her story. And Leah, she does my nails, and we was just talking one day, and I told her to put the Safe Space logo on my nail, and she said, what is this about? And so I told her, and she said, I'll do it. And I was like, really? To have someone that was so vulnerable. She's only done my nails twice. So for us to have that connection, I am much appreciative to have friends in my corner like this, and I know that I can do a much better job as being a friend to y'all. So I want to thank y'all so much wholeheartedly for being here. And we just want to thank
I'd also like to give a thank you to SCETV Education for coming out. You know, we have a table here, the resources of the folks that we have here that we've reached out to, the organizations Coastal Empire Community Mental Health, Offices of Emergency Services and Office of Suicide Prevention from the South Carolina Department of Mental Health, NAMI Low Country, NAMI Mid Carolina, the City of Hardeeville. Thank you to everyone. We are resources here. Please use us. Please visit with them outside. Those who are watching online, please take note of what's on your screen and who I've mentioned. Feel free to look for those resources in your community as well, no matter where you are in the state. We are statewide, so if you can't find it, find us and we'll help you find what you need.
Yes. So thank y'all. And we're going to have interviews outside if you would like to just share some of what you've learned here today. And we just want to thank y'all so much for being here.
Yes, thank you.